What if one moment in the ring could unravel everything you thought you knew about yourself? That's exactly what happened to Ronda Rousey, the UFC icon turned WWE headliner, in front of 78,000 screaming fans at WrestleMania 34. A single move, and suddenly, the baddest woman on the planet wasn't feeling so invincible. In a recent emotional interview that's now spreading like wildfire across YouTube, Ronda opened up like never before. Tears welled up in her eyes, her voice cracked, and what she said stunned the wrestling world. That powerbomb, it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. Now, this wasn't just a botched move or a painful fall. What came after is what truly broke her. Vile internet comments, crude memes, trolls twisting a scripted moment into a personal attack. What should have been the start of a legendary WWE run turned into an emotional nightmare. So why is she speaking out now, years later? To understand, we have to rewind the clock. Go back to the energy of the Superdome, the roar of the crowd, the pressure of performing on the grandest stage of them all. That night should have marked the beginning of something historic. Instead, it exposed Ronda's vulnerability, not just as a wrestler, but as a person caught between two worlds. The real fight world of MMA and the scripted, often brutal theater of professional wrestling. This story isn't just about Ronda, it's about what happens when the weight of public expectation, company pressure, and digital cruelty all come crashing down. It's about the emotional cost of fame. And it's a wake-up call to wrestling fans everywhere. Behind every superstar, there's a human being fighting invisible battles. What really happened in that match? Why did one routine move haunt her for years? And what does her experience say about WWE's treatment of its talent, especially women? Stick around, because this isn't just another highlight reel. This is the untold story of Ronda Rousey's breaking point, and the pain that came after. Rumble recap begins now. Before she ever stepped into a WWE ring, Ronda Rousey was already a name etched in sports history. Born in Riverside, California, she was raised by a mother who was herself a judo champion. That legacy sparked something in young Ronda, a relentless drive to become more than just a competitor. She wanted to dominate. By 2008, she had already made Olympic history as the first American woman to win a medal in judo, a bronze in Beijing. But that wasn't enough. Ronda shifted gears to mixed martial arts, and that's when the legend truly began. The moment she walked into the UFC, the world took notice. Fast, fierce, and unapologetically herself, Ronda quickly became the face of women's MMA. She tore through the bantamweight division, finishing opponents in under a minute. With her vicious armbar, fans didn't just watch her, they worshipped her. Dana White, the UFC president, famously once said women would never fight in the UFC. Ronda changed that. Forever. But by 2016, after a shocking knockout loss to Holly Holm and a failed comeback attempt against Amanda Nunes, Ronda disappeared from the spotlight. Fans speculated, was she done? Could she come back? Then came the twist no one saw coming. In early 2018, during the closing moments of WWE's Royal Rumble pay-per-view, Ronda Rousey appeared, pointing to the WrestleMania sign with that signature smirk. It was official. The baddest woman on the planet was joining WWE. This wasn't just a celebrity cameo, it was a seismic shift. WWE had dabbled in MMA crossovers before, but Ronda was different. She wasn't just famous, she was legitimate. A fighter, an Olympian, a global brand. The moment she signed, WWE fans and MMA loyalists alike held their breath. Could she adapt to a new sport? Could she live up to the hype in a world where storytelling mattered just as much as skill? Ronda wasn't easing in. Her debut match was set for WrestleMania 34, the biggest stage possible. Teaming up with Kurt Angle, a fellow Olympian turned wrestling legend, she'd face none other than Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, the power couple who helped run WWE from the top down. It was more than a match. It was a message. Ronda Rousey isn't here to play. She's here to take over. Leading up to the big night, promo packages hyped her intensity. Media buzzed with speculation. Could she transition from octagon to squared circle without stumbling? Fans had reason to be skeptical. Pro wrestling, while scripted, demands a completely different skill set. Psychology, timing, acting, crowd engagement. Many athletes have tried. Few succeeded, but when that bell rang at WrestleMania 34, doubts vanished. Ronda exploded out of the gate, throwing punches, taking bumps, flipping Stephanie like a sack of flour. She looked like she belonged. Wrestling purists gave nods of approval. Critics hailed it as one of the most impressive debuts in WWE history. And in that moment, it looked like Ronda had defied the odds again. But behind the cheers and pyrotechnics, something else was happening. Something that wouldn't fully surface until years later, because while the world was watching her rise, Ronda was already starting to feel the cracks. April 8, 2018, WrestleMania 34. The Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans is packed with over 78,000 screaming fans. The lights, the spectacle, the pyrotechnics, it's wrestling's biggest night, and all eyes are locked on one match. Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Ronda walks out to a thunderous ovation. She's wearing a black leather jacket, a tribute to Roddy Piper, and a look of pure focus. For someone who's never had a professional wrestling match before, she looks like she's been doing this for years. The bell rings, and what unfolds is pure electricity. Ronda doesn't just hold her own, she steals the show. She moves with explosive speed, slams Stephanie with precision, even squares up with Triple H in a moment that ignites the crowd. When she locks Stephanie in her signature armbar and forces the tap out, it's the perfect exclamation mark. A debut for the ages. Critics raved. Fans were stunned. The best debut in WWE history, some called it. For a few hours, Ronda Rousey was untouchable. But then came the moment, the one that would haunt her long after the cheers faded. Midway through the match, Triple H hoists Ronda up, flips her midair, and drives her down with a textbook powerbomb. It's a spot that fans have seen countless times. But for Ronda, it was something else entirely. In her interview, years later, she called it the most embarrassing moment of my life. Her voice cracks as she recalls the moment. I felt small, exposed, like I didn't belong. So what was it about that powerbomb physically? Ronda was fine. She'd taken harder hits in the UFC, but this wasn't about pain. It was about perception, about control. In MMA, Ronda was the aggressor. She dictated the pace, controlled the outcome. But in WWE, she had to let go. Trust her opponent, play a role, take a fall. And when Triple H, a man twice her size, powerbombed her in front of millions, something shifted. It wasn't just a move, it felt symbolic. For the first time in her career, Ronda wasn't the unstoppable force. She was part of the show, vulnerably scripted, and suddenly, the lines between reality and performance blurred in the worst way. What happened next made it worse. The clip went viral. On Reddit, Twitter, and wrestling forums, fans dissected it, frame by frame. But it wasn't just analysis. It turned toxic fast. The phrase Triple H eats her started popping up. Crude, inappropriate, and completely uncalled for. It spread like wildfire. Ronda wasn't just mocked, she was objectified. Her performance reduced to a meme. Her body, her image, turned into a punchline, and it cut deep. I couldn't believe it, she said, her hands trembling in the interview. People weren't critiquing the match. They were attacking me as a woman, as a person. Ronda had faced haters before, critics, booing crowds, even brutal MMA defeats. But this was different. This wasn't about skill or performance. It was personal, humiliating, designed to tear her down. And for Ronda, who had spent her entire career building a legacy of strength, dominance, and control, this moment felt like it shattered everything. Behind the scenes, she was struggling. She replayed the match in her head, night after night. She scrolled through the comments, the memes, the mockery. Each one cut a little deeper. No one in WWE knew, not fully. To the world, Ronda was thriving, winning matches, headlining events, holding championships. But emotionally, she was slipping. The powerbomb wasn't just a wrestling spot. It became a mental scar, a symbol of something she couldn't quite name but felt every time she stepped into the ring. I thought I was tough, she said. Been punched, kicked, choked, but that broke me in a way I didn't expect. And it was just the beginning. Because the deeper Ronda got into WWE, the more the lines blurred, between reality and storyline, between fame and pressure, between strength and silence. And no one, not the fans, not the company, not even Ronda herself, saw how close she was to breaking. For most fans, WrestleMania 34 was a triumph for Ronda Rousey. But as the internet has proven time and again, triumphs can quickly become targets. Within hours of her debut, clips of Ronda's match, especially the now infamous powerbomb, were everywhere. It wasn't long before the tone shifted. Instead of celebrating her breakout performance, a dark undercurrent began to rise. Comments went from critiques to cruelty. Forums lit up with lewd jokes. The phrase Triple H eats her mutated into a meme that refused to die. It wasn't just toxic, it was surgical, designed to shame, humiliate, and strip away Ronda's dignity. This wasn't playful trolling. It was bullying, wrapped in sarcasm, and Ronda felt it deeply. In her emotional interview, she didn't hold back. People weren't attacking my wrestling, she said. They were attacking me. As a woman, as a human being. What stung most wasn't that they laughed, it was that they enjoyed tearing her down. For years, Ronda had been a symbol of strength. She broke barriers in MMA, headlined pay-per-views, inspired millions. But now, that image was being twisted into something grotesque, all because of one move in one match. The backlash wasn't limited to Twitter or Reddit. YouTube reaction videos analyzed the moment with smug commentary. Wrestling podcasts debated whether Ronda had truly paid her dues. Some even suggested that WWE had made a mistake putting her in the spotlight so quickly. But underneath it all was something uglier, resentment that a woman from the outside had come in, headlined a show, and immediately been placed among the elite. To some fans, that felt like skipping the line. And for those already inclined to hate, the powerbomb was all the ammunition they needed. What followed was months of subtle and not so subtle harassment. Every promo she cut, every match she wrestled, someone would bring it up. Triple H eats her. It became a slogan for the worst corners of wrestling, FANDOM. And Ronda wasn't immune to it. Not even close. I tried to ignore it, she said, but when it's everywhere, when people are tagging you, emailing you, deeming you, you start to believe it. You start to feel like maybe you really are the joke. Behind the scenes, it took a toll. Ronda stopped engaging with fans online. She became more guarded backstage. Her energy shifted. From confident to cautious. From explosive to reserved. And the worst part, no one seemed to notice. WWE, for all its progress on screen, had few systems in place to help talent deal with this kind of emotional assault. Ronda wasn't the first to be cyberbullied, and sadly, she wouldn't be the last. But as one of the company's biggest names, her silence only made things worse. If Ronda couldn't speak up, who could? She began to withdraw. From her fellow superstars, from interviews, even from family. I didn't want to talk about it, she said, because I felt stupid, like I was overreacting. But she wasn't. This wasn't about weakness, it was about humanity. And that's something the internet often forgets. Wrestlers are more than characters. They're people. And when we blur those lines, the damage can be irreversible. Ronda's mental health started to suffer. She admitted to sleepless nights, anxiety attacks, and a growing sense of isolation. Even when fans cheered her, she couldn't hear it. All she could hear were the voices in her head, the ones that replayed that moment, that phrase, over and over again. It's a kind of trauma that doesn't heal with time. It festers, and unless it's addressed, it spreads into everything. Her passion for wrestling dimmed. Her performances changed. She still hit her marks, but the fire was gone. The joy that once defined her had been replaced with something heavier. Doubt, shame, fatigue. I stopped feeling like a fighter, she confessed. I started feeling like a fraud. And that's the heartbreaking part, because Ronda Rousey had done everything right. She trained, she respected the business, she delivered when it mattered most. But none of that mattered to the trolls, who decided she didn't belong. And eventually, she started to believe them. What the internet did to Ronda wasn't criticism, it was cruelty. A coordinated, relentless attempt to tear down someone who dared to be strong in her own way. It's time we start calling it what it is, abuse. And it's long past time for companies like WWE to create safe spaces for their performers. Not just physical safety, but emotional safety too. Because behind the lights, the promos, the big entrances, are real people. And the price of silence is too high. For many fans, life in WWE looks like a dream. Fame, money, adoration, and performing in front of thousands every night. But behind the bright lights is a grind that few truly understand. And for Ronda Rousey, it was a rude awakening. She first signed with WWE. Ronda expected the physicality. She had no illusions. Wrestling is demanding the bumps, the falls, the wear and tear. She was ready for that. But what she didn't expect was the pace. In the UFC, fighters train for months, prepare for one night, and then rest and recover. In WWE, there is no off-season. Superstars are on the road 200+ days a year. Live events, Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views. The schedule is relentless. I'd finish a match, Ronda recalled, hop on a plane at 3 a.m., land in a different city, cut a promo, train, wrestle again, and then do it all over the next night. She was barely sleeping, barely seeing her husband, Travis Brown. Her body, used to controlled fight camps, was now being pushed past exhaustion with no time to heal. I was in survival mode, she admitted, just trying to get through the next show. It wore on her joints. Her back screamed. Old injuries resurfaced. But she kept pushing, thinking that was the only way to prove she belonged. And it wasn't just physical exhaustion. Creatively, Ronda hit a wall. She came in with passion. With ideas, she wanted to shape her character, tell stories that mattered, push women's wrestling forward. But in WWE, creative control is rare, especially for newcomers. Even for someone like Ronda. I had so much I wanted to say, she shared, but everything felt formulaic. Smile, talk tough, fight, repeat. She wanted something real, something with layers. But often, she was handed scripts that flattened her. Generic promos, surface-level feuds. Her rivalry with Alexa Bliss lacked stakes. Her story with Nikki Bella was rushed. There were flashes of brilliance, but never enough to build anything lasting. It frustrated her. She'd pitch ideas backstage, offer character notes, suggest storyline angles, but most of the time, it went nowhere. WWE has a complex creative process, and even main eventers struggle to break through its layers. For Ronda, it felt like she was yelling into a void. She felt like a pawn. A marquee name, sure, but one without a voice. And that clashed with everything she was. In MMA, Ronda was raw, unfiltered, unpredictable. In WWE, she was told where to stand, what to say, how to feel. And while that works for many performers, for Ronda, it felt like suffocation. Backstage, she was often isolated, not out of ego, but because she didn't come up through the traditional system. She wasn't from NXT, she hadn't paid dues in the indies, and that mattered, more than most fans realize. The locker room can be protective, even territorial, and while some embraced her, legends like Kurt Angle and Natalya, others kept their distance. Ronda felt the tension, the unspoken judgment, that she hadn't earned it, that she was just passing through. Some wrestlers thought she had it easy. Instant spotlight, instant title shots, but they didn't see the pressure, the sleepless nights, the psychological burden. Ronda didn't just want to be accepted, she wanted to belong. But belonging takes time, and in WWE, time is a luxury not everyone gets. Add to that the online toxicity, the brutal travel, and the creative frustration, and it's no surprise that Ronda began to question everything. There were days I wanted to quit, she admitted. I'd cry on the plane, cry in hotel rooms. I felt like I was losing myself. And in many ways, she was. The joy that once radiated from her, the fire that made her magnetic, started to dim. Fans noticed it too. Her promos grew flatter. Her in-ring energy dipped. Something was off. What no one knew was that Ronda was quietly unraveling, not from a single incident, but from 1,000 tiny cuts. The grind, the isolation, the lack of control, the internet hate. It all added up. She began to keep a mental list, not of victories, but of compromises. Every promo she didn't believe in. Every match that felt hollow. Every backstage conversation where she smiled and nodded but felt invisible. I didn't hate wrestling, she clarified. I hated what it was doing to me. She began to see a future she didn't want. One where she was away from home 300 days a year. One where her mental health kept deteriorating. One where she couldn't even enjoy her success because it came with so much noise. And when the noise became too loud to ignore, she finally did what she'd been afraid to do. She stepped away. Ronda Rousey wasn't just another athlete in WWE, she was a symbol, a crossover star from the fight world who carried the hopes of an entire generation of women's wrestling. But even with all her fame, all her influence, she quickly realized being a woman in WWE still came with limits. In her interview, Ronda didn't sugarcoat it. The women's evolution was real, but it wasn't equal, she said. She praised legends like Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, called them warriors. But she also pointed out the cracks in the foundation. The matches were shorter, the storylines rushed, the screen time lopsided, and even when women did main event, it felt like they were constantly being asked to prove themselves all over again. We'd get 10 minutes to do what the guys got 25 for, she explained, and then we'd get blamed if it didn't. It wasn't just about time, it was about substance. Ronda craved meaningful rivalries, deeper storytelling, characters with flaws and motivations, not just tough talk and flashy entrances. Too often, the women were reduced to archetypes, the diva, the fighter, the rebel. She wanted nuance. Even in creative meetings, Ronda noticed the difference. The men's feuds were layered, had slow burns, twists, callbacks. The women's angles, frequently, last minute, constantly rewritten, often treated as filler. That disconnect made her feel undervalued, especially coming from a sport where she had helped elevate women to co-main and main event status. She didn't expect special treatment, but she expected progress. I didn't come to be a poster girl, she said. I came to build something real. She pointed to other promotions, AEW, Impact Wrestling, where women were headlining weekly, given time to shine, and trusted with complex arcs. She believed WWE had the talent to do the same, but not always the will. The fans were ready, the talent was ready. The system wasn't, she concluded. To Ronda, this wasn't just personal. It was about legacy, about whether WWE could truly lead the next phase of the women's revolution, not in words, but in action. Ronda Rousey's journey through WWE wasn't just a storyline, it was a storm. From her explosive debut to the emotional scars left behind, her experience pulled back the curtain on what it really means to be a superstar. She entered the ring as a fighter, but she left as something more, a woman who dared to speak the truth when silence would have been easier. And in doing so, she gave fans something rare in wrestling: honesty. Her story is a reminder that no spotlight is bright enough to burn away personal pain, that even champions can feel broken, and that behind every suplex, every promo, every cheer, there's a human being navigating immense pressure. As for Ronda, she's not bitter, she's evolving, focused on her family, exploring new passions, and using her voice not to complain, but to change the game. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. Strength isn't just about fighting through pain, it's about knowing when to step back, speak out, and start healing. If Ronda's story moved you, smash that like button. Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling truth bombs. This is Rumble Recap, signing off. Stay curious, stay kind.